How much do you guys know about pathological liars? A pathological liar, by definition, is anyone who constantly lies without regard for consequences. And an important part of this is that they actually have difficulty controlling their lying. The lie can be about anything as small as their age to anything as large as their medical history. And Belle Gibson has lied about both. Welcome back. I'm your host, Manasvi, and if you've been on Netflix in the past couple of weeks, you've probably seen the Australian TV show Cider Vinegar. I apologize if you've already seen it, but this was a request from one of my friends. She's seen everyone going crazy about the show, but she doesn't have Netflix, so she asked if I could retell it, and I just couldn't turn her down because the story is so freaking crazy. I was actually surprised to find it already out of the top 10 TV shows in America, but I think a two-part documentary on the situation replaced it, so the story is still in the top 10. Apple Cider Vinegar is actually a dramatized version of a true story, and the whole story is about a woman who built an empire based off of a lie. I'll point out what is fact versus fiction at the end, but let's get into it. It all starts with a crying woman. She's sitting on a bed of an MRI scanner in tears. It's like a stabbing pain in my temples, but also in the back of my scalp. It's like fire ants, and now my vision is starting to blur. My mom has MS, but this pain, it feels more like structural than neurological. Like there's something in there. Her mascara is dripping down her face as she's being sent into the MRI scanner, and then we hear her voice. It's narrating to us. My doctors say, we don't know how to categorize you anymore. You keep defying our predictions. I was given 6 weeks to live, 4 months tops. That was 4 years ago. Human beings are capable of anything. Meet Belle Gibson, everyone. She's not only a cancer survivor, but she's a mother, an entrepreneur, and now an author. Her story is so incredible that multiple media outlets have praised her for conquering Silicon Valley from her kitchen table. And Apple, yes, the tech company Apple, signed a deal with her app, The Whole Pantry. Belle defied medical advice and healed herself naturally, all while posting about it on social media and amassing millions of followers. But then the whispers start. Questions are raised over healing Belle. Was none of it real? Did she ever have cancer? It begs the question, what sort of person pretends to have brain cancer? This is a story we have to hear from Belle herself. It's 2015, and in Santa Monica, Belle sits in a conference room quietly singing Toxic by Britney Spears to herself when Heck walks in. She's here for crisis management, and Heck will be the one taking up her case. As soon as he sits down, she asks, "Do you love it? Saving people in crisis?" He smiles at her before coming back with a question of his own. "Do you want to tell me how this all started?" "How much do you think you know about me, Heck?" "Not enough. You're a complicated person, Belle." "We all are. I'm not special in any way." 2 million followers. Come on, Belle. 2.3 actually. But nah, they know. My followers know that I don't judge. People like that, so they like me, instinctively. But he points out that she's been getting death threats recently. Belle thinks back to when she was laying on her bed, streaks of dry tears litter her face as she reads the comments that hope that she dies of cancer. People have gotten confused, Heck. That's why I'm here, to clean up those misconceptions. And Heck can't help but just scoff at the word confused. "So you didn't lie or invent anything?" No, I wouldn't want to label, but you'd have to be an actual sociopath to do that. And I'm not. I mean, I could do like 50 personality quizzes right now, and I'm an empath every time. I feel everything. You save people for a living, Heck. I've tried to help them as best I can. Bottom line, I helped. And to find out exactly how she helped, we need to go back to 2013 in Melbourne. Belle at this point in time was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed girl making a video about how she didn't know who to turn to when she was first diagnosed with brain cancer. She felt unsupported, unmotivated, uninspired because of her situation. And you know what they say, become the change you want to see. So she made an app called The Whole Pantry. It's an app that will change your life one meal at a time. That was the promotional video she made for her app. It was a very well done video, so well done that it gathered over 40,000 likes. And of the people who liked that post, one of them was Lucy. Belle changed her life. In the time before Belle, Lucy was lucky. She had friends, she had a love story with Justin, and that true love eventually turned into marriage. She had so many plans in life, But all that went away that fateful day. Her and Justin were fooling around. They were laying in bed and he had his hand on her breast when he felt it. A lump. At first, Lucy brushed it off. They'd always been lumpy, but the more she thought about it, the more worried she got. And then the diagnosis happened. She has breast cancer. She underwent surgery, but that didn't work, so they started chemo. It wasn't easy. She was throwing up all the time. She was losing clumps of her hair every time she brushed it. At first, she tried to make jokes about it, like she would make a mustache out of all the hair that fell off and showed it to Justin. The two would laugh and kiss. But the longer she was in chemo, the more joy it sucked out of her. She began doom scrolling through Instagram. She scrolled through post after post of cancer patients who had lost all their hair and are in hospital gowns. And then, like a beacon of hope, comes Healing Belle's post. She's got a head full of hair and she's traveling the world, and most importantly, Lucy recognizes her. Belle was a repeat customer at her cafe. The next time she sees Belle at the cafe, Lucy can't help but notice how Belle seemed to glow. She looked so full of life, and Lucy couldn't help herself. She grabs a piece of paper and scribbles down that she's a huge fan. She loves that Belle found a way to beat cancer without undergoing chemo. And now she's created this wonderful app that actually helps people, all while spreading her truth. When Belle sees that note, she's so touched that she goes up to Lucy, and with one look, she could tell. You too? Breast stage 3. I used to do that too, merge my identity with my diagnosis. I hate it when my partner does that to me, Belle. So, what are any big plans for today? I'm just writing a book. I'm a bit excited, actually. It's mostly just recipes, what I've learned along my, I was about to say journey. I asked my oncologist about diet, her eyes glazed over. I know, right? How can they have so little education when it comes to nutrition? I mean, the arrogance, it's criminal when you think about it. Yeah, well, I can't wait to read your book. Hey, you should come to the launch. Lucy is all smiles as she hears this, but what gets her most of all is that look Belle has in her eyes as she stares at Lucy and says, I love you. It's going to be okay. Belle never ended up sending her an invite to the book launch, but that didn't matter to Lucy. The feeling Belle gave her was enough for her to pre-order a copy of Belle's book and follow all the recipes. Belle's book launch was a massive success. The room is packed with smiling faces as Belle gets up on stage and takes the mic. I said publicly right from the start that I was a brain cancer patient on a quest to heal myself naturally. I was totally overwhelmed by the response. It amazes me that my story resonated. The host of their book launch asked a question. Belle, what do you think it was that attracted such a following? I would say that it's my commitment to authenticity. Too many people over-edit themselves. I wasn't always confident in my own skin. I was a shy kid. I didn't think I fit in, but going through what I have, I've learned to seek out and value what's raw and what's honest. One of the worst things that could happen to a person happened to me. And you know what? I'm so grateful for it. While everyone else in the audience is nodding their head in sympathy, one woman stands out. She's got her phone out, filming the whole thing, and as Belle talks about how grateful she is to have been diagnosed with cancer, the woman lets out a silent laugh. The host tries to interrupt Belle's speech, but Belle brushes her off. On that note, I couldn't let this moment pass without paying respect to my friend and mentor, Mila. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight for reasons I'm sure you're all aware, but I know this has brought her great comfort. And at that line, the woman who's been filming her angrily puts her phone away, grabs a book off the table, and walks out of the book launch. She makes her way into an alleyway with her phone against her ear. Hey, did you get it? Yep. Saw your shout out? Super thoughtful, right? Fucking sweet ass. What about the book? Are the recipes any good? The woman flips through the book. Yeah, they're pretty good. Hey, Meals, what do you want me to do? Just tell me whatever you want me to do. I'll do it. I want to destroy her. Back in present day, Belle sits in front of Heck, twirling her hair. I'm only hypothesizing, but it must have affected her that my book was reviewed as better than hers. It's not her fault, but my advice was just so much bigger. And Heck has to interrupt before Belle goes any further. I'm sorry, I'm lost. Who was hurt? Whose book? Belle is talking about Mila. Mila was your average 22-year-old. She'd graduated summa cum laude and had just moved to Sydney. It was her first time being away from home, but she had such a close relationship with her mom that they speak at least 3 times a day. She landed her dream job in journalism at Girlfriend magazine, and she has a gang of friends who light up her life. She had enough romance to keep things interesting, and sure, maybe she could have been looking after her health a bit more, but she was 22. I mean, what 22-year-old is obsessing over their health? So can you imagine what happened to her perfect bubble when she saw the lumps on her arm? When they told her that those lumps were aggressive tumors and that they had to cut her arm off to stop it from spreading any further, she became obsessed with researching what life would look like. She saw examples of people who had undergone amputation living normal lives. They were active. Hell, some of them had even mastered pole dancing with one leg. But she also researched about the psychological impacts of amputation, about alternative medicine. She delved into all the research behind how amazing positivity and self-care is at fighting diseases. So the next time she has a meeting with her doctor, she tells them, "I'm not convinced that this is the right course of action. I found a case study. A girl from Manchester, she had osteosarcoma of the tibia and her team advised amputation, but her psych said that it would cause an identity crisis beyond the patient's emotional resources. She elected to go to Berlin and began mistletoe therapy. That was 3 years ago." Mila passes a copy of the study to the doctors in the room, and just to paint a picture, in the room with Mila are 6 other doctors. There are representatives from oncology, radiology, surgical, prosthetics, psychology, and occupational therapy sitting in this room telling Mila that amputation is her best course of action. But Mila's done her own research. High doses of mistletoe extract have cytotoxic power. Her oncologist looks at her wide-eyed. No, they don't. She pulls up this old black and white video of this old sickly looking man holding a plant, and he goes, "My name is Rudolf Schneider, and my institute is based on the observation that, like cancer, mistletoe is a parasitic growth which eventually kills its host. In following Hahnemann's theories that like kills like," Mila pauses the video, "it's used clinically in Sweden and Netherlands and Germany. Over 1,000 in vitro studies have shown it promotes anti-cancer activities." And her oncologist interrupts her. "With adverse reactions recorded such as anaphylaxis, fever, joint pain, kidney failure. Please look at me when you're talking about me. It's my arm. You say there are cancers inside of it. There are cancers inside of it, Mila. Dr. Rowland?" Dr. Rowland speaks up. I have your scans, which I'm afraid do show multiple aggressive tumors. I want another option." "Mila, I'd like to tell you about some of the advances being made in prosthetics. I want another option. Death. That's another option. Do you want to die? That is the reality that we are facing. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? It's very important that you understand what I am saying, young lady." At those words, Mila's mom starts to cry. Mila turns to her mom. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'll cut it off. Look, if you think that I should hack it off, I will, but it's wrong. I know it's wrong. I can feel it, Mom." The mother and daughter look at each other for a few more seconds before the mom turns to Mila's oncologist. I just don't see why we can't just explore some different options. It's just that it's so extreme. What are the other options? What about the experimental, like drug trials? Please?" Mila's oncologist looks fed up with the whole thing, but he can't enforce his will onto her, so he does the next best thing. "After considerable pressure from the family and with notable misgivings, I performed an isolated limb infusion. It's an experimental procedure which delivers 1 dose of chemotherapy at 10 times the usual potency directly to the tumor site. We found the overall 3-month response rate was 58%, which dropped to 37% for those with upper extremity diseases like Mila. For context, if we had amputated, her survival rate would be 89.9%. But I'm not an attractive young woman, and it's not my arm." After the dose, Mila is fast asleep while her mom and her dad are next to her. Her mom is glad that they pushed. I mean, otherwise they would have chopped her arm off. But the dad shakes his head. No, next time we listen to the doctors and we do exactly what they tell us. But the mom is sure there won't be a next time. And Belle blames the patriarchy for this. The patriarchy was pitting her against Mila. Surely there was enough room for the both of them, and heck, sighs. Except this Mila, everyone calls her Mila. Mila was diagnosed with cancer. So she's consistently maintained, heck, I have no reason to doubt her, because in her case, it's true, Belle. Heck, I can call you Heck, right? I was diagnosed with stage 4 brain tumor. Really? Yes. Really? Yes! You have medical records to prove that you have terminal brain cancer. I'll have them sent over to you, Heck. Okay. Good. If you were lying, if you've gotten confused along the way, you're here asking for my professional advice and guidance. This is a no judgment space. Huh. Go on then. Guide me. The best case on what I gotta go on, you go dark. You change your name, get a good lawyer. You should have one already. Belle looks at him like he's insane. He's telling her to abandon her company, and he's saying it like it's no big deal, as if she doesn't have to abandon all the workers that she's hired and give up all the unquantifiable momentum that she's worked so hard to get. I'm not here for your legal advice or your business help. I've come to you specifically because I want my reputation back. And to do that, I need interviews where I tell my side of the story. Print, TV, maybe a reality show. I'm worth 7 figures. It's a good commission. All you have to do is make a couple phone calls. All right, you want me to soften up the ground? I'm gonna need stuff to work with. Troubled childhood? That's off limits. You've already spoke in interviews about your mother's MS. Okay, what about mental health? MS is physically degenerative, not mental. No, I mean you, Belle. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I know I get anxiety sometimes. Have you heard of Munchausen disease? It's when a person fakes an illness to gain sympathy or even attention. I know what it is, and it's Munchausen syndrome. It's not a disease. It's on the DSM-5 fictitious disorder. By this time, Belle has tears rolling down her face, but Heck is impressed. You've read up on it? I'm not medically illiterate. I've spent a lot of time in a lot of hospitals because I was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. I was given 6 weeks to live, 4 months tops. By whom? What doctors? What hospital, Belle? I'm getting you that information. But Heck doesn't let the vagueness slide this time. He presses for a timeline. Belle tries to deflect, already putting blame on Australia's postal system before she's even shipped anything out. Heck loses his composure. Belle, I'm trying real hard here. When were you diagnosed with brain cancer? Can you at least answer that? Belle wipes a tear off her cheek with her index finger as she thinks back to Melbourne 2010. She was working in an insurance call center where she heard all about people's ailments, including brain cancer. And as much as I hate to say this, she seemed rather good at her job. She was kind when she was talking to people and answering their questions about their insurance. She would reassure them that she would fast track their claims. She empathized with them. But while she was, in my opinion, good at her job, she wasn't good at making friends in the workplace. She was actually pregnant at the time. I want to say she was around 9 months. Her coworkers had rallied together to get her this blanket and a cake as like a present for her upcoming maternity leave. And Belle is overjoyed at this. She takes the blanket and rubs it against her face as she tells them how thankful she is. She then goes on and on about how it's not easy moving to a new city and how much their kindness means to her. But you can tell the people in this room aren't even the slightest bit interested in what she has to say. They all have a plate of cake in their hands and they're quietly eating it while standing more than 6 feet away from Belle, not even bothering to look at her as she rambles. I couldn't help but feel bad for her at this point. Like, no one should be treated like that when they did absolutely nothing wrong. Maybe Belle is annoying, but it's still like, you feel bad. When Belle wraps up her speech and everyone starts mingling, she approaches one of her coworkers. Can you drive me tomorrow to my baby shower? You can tell her coworker is clearly gonna say that she's not going, but before she can put those words out into the air, Belle interrupts. There's only a few of us going. I wanted to keep it to really close friends, so if you could try not to post. Do you think you'd drink? Because you can pick me up and I can drive. It's no problem, really. Her coworker reluctantly says okay, and Belle immediately gets to work. She spends her entire weekend looking for things to buy. She goes around around supermarkets with her eyes glued to the organic vegetables she very much cannot afford. She stops by a florist where she looks at all the expensive flowers but ends up getting a $10 bouquet. And then she heads over to the shop that her coworkers bought the blanket from. She takes the blanket out. "Hi, I was gifted this, so I don't have a receipt. I love it, but I'm allergic to synthetic fibers. We can't offer a refund without a receipt, unfortunately, ma'am. It still has its tag on. See, you could just put it back on the shelf. What about an exchange? Do you want to take a peek around?" Well, it's just that, I don't know if I'll still, well, there's a chance that they're not sure that she's gonna make it. And of course, when you pull out a sob story like that, no one is gonna tell you no. So the blanket goes back to the shop and Belle is handed a crisp 20 and a 5. 25? $24.95. It was on sale. Belle's smile drops off her face. Her tongue makes its way into her cheek. Cheap fucking bitches. So instead of the organic milk she was eyeing, she goes for the everyday value one. Instead of the whole wheat, she goes for the white bread. Instead of the organic eggs, she goes for the regular kind. She's juggling all the bags of groceries she has while talking to her mom. And you know, guys, her mom, in my book, is just as bad as Belle. Belle is trying to celebrate her baby. She even paid for her mom's tickets and luggage so that she could come to the party. But her mom is making up shit excuses like how her cat was peeing all over the floor to try to get out of coming, or how her kidney pain has gotten worse while she sips on her wine. I know that kidney isn't filtering out the alcohol, but in my mind, when you're sick, you really shouldn't be drinking anyway. And what is Belle supposed to do when her mom gives her excuses like this? Tell her to stop being a piece of shit and come? Unfortunately, that's not something most of us can say to our moms. So instead, Belle just tells her that maybe it's better if she doesn't come. And while that dampens some of her spirits, she gets home, shakes it off, and begins prepping. She makes cupcakes and sandwiches, and I'm not sure why, but she looked very stressed while doing it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, Mila's cancer has come back. The drug trials didn't work, and she's made her way to this beautiful place. It's like on a beach, but it has this very calming vibe to it. I'll see if I can put like a picture here, but I thought it was absolutely beautiful. If it wasn't for the spiders and snakes that I know live in Australia, I would have really loved to go there. Anyway, Mila is here for yoga classes, and in the yoga class, she meets Darcy. Darcy is another cancer patient who ended up taking her doctor's advice and amputated her leg, and Mila just can't stop staring at her. And I get it, it's jarring for sure, but there's something in Mila's gaze that I don't know how to describe. Like, the best I can say is that it's like she's seeing herself in Darcy's place and she doesn't like what she's seeing. She would rather die than look like that. When Darcy asks Mila about her treatment, Mila lies and says she's in remission, which basically means she doesn't have cancer anymore, which is a lie, by the way, but after seeing Darcy like that, she's made up her mind about amputation. And to make it worse, Darcy tells Mila that the amputation didn't work in her case. The cancer spread even though they cut off her leg. And as yoga classes continue, Mila locks eyes with a young man. Almost immediately after catching his gaze, she curses underneath her breath. But while she doesn't seem all that happy to see him, he's really happy to see her. Turns out they had a thing during their school years and Mila is embarrassed by it, but Arlo, he looks like he still likes her. Back with Belle, she's waddling her way to this little open field in a park with all her picnic stuff. She sent a text to her coworkers, "Hey lovely, sun's out, secured a spot, see you all soon, XXX. She sets up pillows and blankets, food and drinks, and I have to say that she makes it look really pretty. Like, you can tell she's put a lot of effort into this. She sits down, she waits and waits and waits, and finally her phone rings. It's her coworker calling to say she can't make it because she just got the worst period. Belle suggests a magnesium supplement before asking if she just wants to come for an hour. I'm not a psych expert or anything like that, but it really seemed like she's starved for love and attention. Nobody seems to like her, not even her own mother, and I don't know how I would react to that. It's easy for someone like me who's had a very amazing life to just sit here and be like, how could she do that? But I don't know how I would have reacted if my own mother never cared about me or if I didn't even have one friend. Belle angrily starts shoving all her stuff back into her bags, literally on the verge of tears as she makes her way to the emergency room. And that is where we started with her story. She's sitting on an MRI scanner in tears, going on and on about how something is structurally wrong with her head. While Belle is undergoing medical scans, Mila is sitting in a little pool in her yoga camp reading a book about death when two hands cover her eyes. Before she knows what's happening, Arlo snatches the book from her and makes her chase him for a little while. He reads the summary of the book. When she finally gets her book back, Arlo pulls a little rock out of his pocket and hands it to her. I found this in the river. I don't usually take them, but this one I wanted you to see. The others are black and gray, but this one, it's all by itself. I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but the rock is this like mesmerizing deep sea green color, which coincidentally matches Mila's swimming suit perfectly. Arlo smiles a charming crooked smile, and Mila tries to hand the rock back to him, but he pushes her hand away. Keep it. It's okay. I got it for you. Do you know, I remember in primary school, green was your favorite color, and you used to pick 4-leaf clovers every little lunch. It's a weird thing to remember. A couple of people enter the pool that Arlo and Mila are resting in, and Arlo turns to look at them. Must be inspiring, the energy in the group, the survivors' energy. There's nothing more powerful. It's toxic, Arlo. Sick energy. You know they did it to themselves, right? I did. I knew I was putting all that shit in my body. School, uni, I worked so hard and I thought, I don't know, it was my right to get fucked up on a Wednesday if I felt like it. But I knew. I was so sick of being good, you know? But I knew. You beat it, Mila. You did it. No, I didn't beat it. No, I'm getting my arm cut off next week. The doctors, they're in charge now because it's back and it's worse. A lot worse. I can feel it inside me. I hate it, and I have no choice. Arlo takes her hand in his and starts singing, and maybe it's a song or maybe it's the way he's holding her, but something about the moment breaks her. She starts crying for the first time since her diagnosis, and then she makes up her mind. Good girl. She's brave and she's kind. Never a downer, never angry. Good girl. It's how we're conditioned, and so I didn't know the words to describe the rage I felt when the doctors looked at my body and only saw disease. But then, this beautiful man, who wasn't yet my man, gave me a stone and reminded me that the world is more magical than we give it credit. So no more lying and pretending and pleasing everyone. From now on, I'm gonna stop thinking with my head and start feeling with my body, because I know that cutting off my arm is wrong. Like I know that chemotherapy is wrong. I have to find the right way for me. She writes up those thoughts and publishes them to a blog. Meanwhile, Lucy in 2013 is laying in bed watching another Healing Belle video on Instagram. Her husband Justin turns to her. Luce, can you try to get some sleep? But Lucy is enamored. Instead, she turns her back to her husband and turns down the volume before resuming the video. The next morning, as they're wrapping up the treatment for the day, Lucy stops her doctor from leaving. Sorry, just quickly, I wanted to ask about, there's this treatment place in Mexico that a friend recommended. Justin looks alarmed because no friend of theirs made any recommendation at all. It's called the Hirsch Institute. And that's all it takes for Justin to know that Belle's gotten into Lucy's head. Lucy's doctor, however, isn't as receptive to Lucy's question. You're a 3C. We don't mess around with 3Cs. There's no 3D, there's stage 4. And you know what happens at stage 4? Lucy nods before getting up and storming off. Justin follows after her as Lucy curses out the doctors while walking down the stairs outside. She's so fucking arrogant. Why can't she just admit that it's not working? The idea that one size fits all is insane. She stops for a second to catch her breath. Tears are streaming down her face, and Justin doesn't know how to console her anymore, so he starts being blunt. What's your alternative, Luce? This Mexico thing? Because I'm not letting some influencer with a fucking nose ring undercut years of actual medical research. Oh, you're not letting? That's great. And then her legs give out. She falls to the floor. Justin tries to help her up, but she shoves him off her. But then she starts crying and pulls him closer while apologizing over and over again. Back to Belle, who's been sent home with her MRI scan in 2010. She's sitting on her couch devouring a cupcake as she writes a post for a public forum. As a first-time young mom-to-be, I would have hoped for a little more consideration and support from the people I call friends. I know everyone is busy with their own lives, and I'm not trying to complain, but with all the scary medical drama I've been facing, it feels pretty tough right now. And damn it, I was looking forward to my baby shower so much. And as she's licking the cupcake wrapper clean, a miracle happens. A random person from the internet gives her a virtual hug in the comment section, but they also have a question for her. What medical dramas? Belle licks her cupcake wrapper one more time before tossing it to the side and reaching for her keyboard. I think I've mentioned I've been battling migraines. What I haven't shared is that I had an episode at work recently where I collapsed. I'd just gotten home from the hospital. My doctor said, she licks her thumb before typing, "You have brain cancer." But she deletes that last part and then replaces it with, "Belle, you have a malignant brain cancer. You're dying. You have 6 weeks to live. 4 months tops. But I'm going to prove him wrong. For myself and for my bubba, I'm going to live." She uploads the comment and within seconds, she's got strangers giving her their sympathies. Oh my gosh, this is so unfair. Oh, you poor darling, you poor thing. Seriously, we're all here. While she's soaking in all of this affection, there's one comment that catches her attention more than the rest of them. Someone linked a blog to someone whose situation is very similar to Belle's. And that's how she finds Mila's blog. She becomes obsessed rather quickly. One article catches her attention more than the others. It reads, "Every day on this, I really hate the word journey. I do feel like my voice is becoming stronger and louder than it's ever been. I'm not alone and I'm not broken. I'm allowed to be loud. I'm allowed to take up space. I'm stronger than I know. So look at world and hear me roar." Back in 2015, that same Mila is talking to Chanel on the phone, asking her to destroy Belle. Chanel is more than happy to destroy Belle and the marketing facade that she's put up. Chanel lives for marketing. Everything about it, from finding the market fit to the story creation, just calls to her. And that was the reason she went from being Mila's oldest friend to Belle's old manager. She graduated high school at 16 and became a banking analyst before she turned 20. But being a banking analyst was destroying her soul. So 4 months later, she moved to Berlin to set up an incubator in the social impact space. But that became too much fun for her little body to handle, so she inevitably had to head home. Today, she's dead set on destroying Belle. She managed to get an appointment with Sean, a writer for this investigations team at a newspaper. She called him over with the promise that she had a groundbreaking story. He starts digging through his backpack while he's talking to her. "You have something for me on Belle Gibson? My colleague passed me and said that you had an urgent tip-off on Belle. It's Belle Gibson." "Okay, who's that?" "That's a good question. How much time do you..." But she stops talking when Sean walks away from her and starts calling after this man. Justin, are you off to the hearing now?" The man turns around and it's Lucy's husband. Annoyed, Chanel goes up to Justin. "Have you heard about Belle Gibson?" And that piques his interest. Of course he knows her. He's heard her stupid voice more times than he would have liked, and she's preying on his sick wife. "Belle?" Lucy follows her. "Why? What do you think about her?" "I haven't met her." "Do you have an instinct?" "I think maybe a leech, possibly a viper. You?" "I think, Hey, Sean, can I talk to him as well?" Justin takes a step closer to her. "What's she done?" Belle right now is eating Japanese food with Heck. She picks a little bit of seaweed salad up with her chopsticks and puts it in her mouth. "I'm sorry, Heck. I think I lied before. To you." "That's okay, Belle. Let's take a deep breath. Let's start from when you first lied about having brain cancer." "No, I didn't ever lie about that." She swallows hard as she thinks back to the day she stalked Mila online. She'd finished her day of stalking by sending Mila a friend request on Facebook, and as she gets up off her couch, we see the brain scan report from earlier that day. It reads, "Conclusion, normal MRI scan, no abnormalities detected." But no, that's not the thing she lied to Heck about. She lied about something else. When I said people like me instinctively, that's not totally factually correct. I tried really hard, really hard for them to like me. And in the end, they never do. And that is the end of episode 1. I'm sorry if I sound a little snarky and distasteful in the beginning. It's just that the things that Belle have done are just really maddening, and so I didn't want to portray her in too much of like a normal voice because I think she's annoying as hell and stupid as hell. Anyway, as I've said before, this is, and I hope that you can see it for yourself, a very dramatized version of the actual events. If you want the actual series of events, I believe Netflix's The Search for Instagram's Worst Con artist will have all of those for you. So if you're not one for fiction but still want the events of this crime, then that's the place for you to go. But what do you guys think so far? I was hooked from the first episode of this show, and oddly enough, I think this is the first Australian show I've ever watched, which is crazy to think about for me. I've been recommending this show to literally everyone. I bullied my sister and a few of my friends into watching it, and they all loved it. So if you haven't already, I hope that this has convinced you to go finish it on your own. That is all for today, and I will see you all next week. Bye!